We all know how outrageous medical expenses can be, and when you go on Medicare, the same is true. In this video, I'm going to show you the 6 biggest Medicare expenses and how you can be prepared for them. Now, when you make the decision to go on Medicare, you are going to have 2 different options for using your Medicare benefits. One of those would be to stay in A and B and get a supplemental plan to fill in the gaps. And the other one will be to have an Advantage plan, which is a replacement plan, also called the C plan. All right, these are your 2 options. You cannot be on both of these at the same time. It's going to have to be one or the other. Now, the only thing that these 2 systems are going to have in common is you have to be enrolled in Medicare A and B. And then beyond that, these 2 systems are going to work differently. And you're going to see that as we begin to look at the 6 different big Medicare expenses that you're going to face. First of all, let's talk about premiums. Now, when it comes to either Advantage or Supplement, I have to be enrolled, as I said, into Medicare A and B. Now, for most people, Medicare A has 0 premium, but B carries a premium for most people of $164.90 a month. If you're on Social Security, that's going to come out of your Social Security check. If you're not, they'll bill you for that quarterly, or you can actually set up a bank draft with the government called Medicare Easy Pay, or you can pay it online through my Medicare.gov account. All right, but we're going to have to pay for Medicare Part B, whether we have a supplemental plan or an Advantage plan. And so just to keep the math simple, let's round that up 10 cents. And so we're going to say it's $165 a month, right? So anyone that's going to be on Medicare is going to have to pay that. And so the math on that is $1,980 that you're going to pay for the year in Part B premium. So either way I go, I'm going to have to spend that $1,980 for the year in my Part B. Now, I do want to make sure that you understand that some people actually have to pay more than that for their Part B premium, because this amount that you pay for Part B premium is based upon what is called your modified adjusted gross income. Now, keep this in mind. If you're on Medicare in 2023, it's your modified adjusted gross income from 2021. And if you're on Medicare 2024, they're going to look at 2021. They always look back 2 years. And what happens when we're on Medicare, Medicare notifies the IRS saying you're on Medicare, and they're going to ask the IRS to look at your tax return 2 years earlier and report the modified adjusted gross income. So we're all familiar with AGI, that's adjusted gross income. It's modified by adding back in tax-exempt interest or tax-free income. And so this would be, it could be municipal bonds, it could be some U.S. savings bonds, foreign income that you didn't have to pay federal taxes on, but you have to report those on your return. And there's a line for that on the return above the AGI line. So they take AGI plus tax-exempt or tax-free interest income, and that number is what's going to be reported to Medicare to determine what you pay for your Part B premium. So here's what they do. Every year they establish a threshold. And so in 2023, the thresholds are this. For anyone that's a single filer, if you make $97,000 or less modified adjusted gross income, then that is the right number for your Part B premium. If you're a couple, you're married, you file a joint return, that number is $194,000 or less. Each of you on Medicare would pay the $164.90. But if I'm going to be above $97,000 as a single person, above $194,000 as a married couple, we're going to pay more for our Part B premium as well as for our drug premiums as well. And so that's going to vary. I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but these extra amounts are called IRMAs. It's an IRMA. IRMAA. It stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjusted Amount. These are surcharges added to Part B premium as well as drug plans. And so they range anywhere from about $75 for the first level of IRMA, and there's 5 levels of IRMA, and when we get to the highest one, it's an additional about $475 every single month. Okay, so if you're considered high income, which is about 1 out of 10 people now on Medicare, you're going to have to pay IRMAs. And so what I'm trying to teach you is when we address the expenses that we're going to have to pay for Medicare, we have to realize there will be premiums for our Medicare Part B. Now, in addition to that, we could also have some premiums for our plans that we're going to have for insurance. Remember, it's one or the other. And so again, there are 10 different medigap policies today, Medicare supplemental plans, and the top 3 are the Plan F, the Plan G, and the Plan N. Just to kind of be on the average now, middle of the road plan that most people are going with today is the G plan. All right, and so I'm going to use that for my illustration in this video today. But the G plan right now is going to vary based upon age, age and your gender and where you live for sure. But as a general rule, we're going to say the G plan right now, on average for someone turning 65, is going to be about $125 a month in premium. That's for the G plan. Now remember, this G plan covers 5 of the 6 Medicare gaps, or 6 gaps in Medicare, and the G plan covers 5 of the 6. So the only thing someone that has a G plan is going to be out of pocket on is what we call the Medicare B deductible. This is the outpatient side, the doctor side of Medicare, the B side, and this year that is $226. So that is the B deductible. So if I have a G plan, I have full coverage other than the B deductible. I'd be responsible for that. All right, so I'm just simply going to use that as our illustration right now. So that's the G plan. And so if it's $125 a month, and keep in mind, folks, in some areas it's going to be less, some it's going to be a little bit more, so please, I'm just saying that's an average. So you take $125 a month times 12, that's going to give us $1,500 that we are going to have to pay for that plan G. And that's for the year, $1,500. In addition to that, I'm responsible for what? My B deductible. All right, so I'm going to have to pay that, and that again is just once a year. Okay, that $226 is one time in the year, but that's money I'm going to be out of pocket. Hey, just real quickly, if you're finding this video to be helpful, you can like, comment, and subscribe. And if you do so, that'll let YouTube know that this is helpful information, and they'll send it out to others who also need to learn about Medicare. Now let's talk about Advantage plans. The majority of Advantage plans actually have a 0 premium. In other words, there's no cost to you to enroll into that Advantage plan. Now, there are some that have a very minimal cost, could be $15, maybe upwards to $30 or $40, but most of them have a 0 premium. And the reason for that, because instead of paying a premium, what I'm doing is I'm going to pay copays, and you'll see this here in a minute. So I'm going to be out-of-pocket expenses, but other than my Medicare B premium, I am not going to have to pay a premium to the insurance company as a general rule. I'm going to pay copays. But also what's going to happen with this plan is they're going to set what we call a max out of pocket. And this is an annual amount. And again, this is going to vary whether you're on an HMO, a PPO, whether you're in network or out of network. But for the video, I'm just going to say the average right now, max out of pocket, is about $5,000 a year, okay? So that can include deductibles, it can be co-payments, it could be co-insurance. In other words, I am pulling out my checkbook, my wallet, and I'm paying, but once I hit the max out of pocket during the year, whether I meet that in March or I meet it in October, whenever I meet that, once I have met that max out of pocket, you can put your checkbook away, your wallet away, because you're not going to have any more out-of-pocket expenses that year. And then these max out of pockets reset every January, and then I start paying my copays again. All right, so that's the payment structure as we compare these two different options. All right, so that is a serious expense that we're going to be responsible for when we're on Medicare. All right, now let's go to number 2. Let's talk about hospitalization. Right now, the average hospital stay is right around 6 days. And so as we talk about going to the hospital, what happens is this. If I stay in original Medicare and I have this supplemental plan that I paid $1,500 a year for, if I've already met my B deductible, okay, I go to the hospital, I'm responsible for a $1,600 deductible, but my G plan pays that. Okay, there's no expense. I've already met my deductible. I'm only responsible for the B, so the A deductible is going to be covered by that supplemental plan. If I'm in the hospital upwards to a year, again, there is no cost to me whatsoever. Why? Because I paid that premium, $1,500 a year, to get those gaps covered, to get that hospitalization gaps totally covered by my Medicare plan. Okay, so again, I'm going to be 0 out of pocket. So if I have a supplemental plan, if I've met my deductible already, I'm going to be done. That hospitalization actually absolutely cost me 0 out of pocket. Now, if I'm on an Advantage plan, remember, I didn't pay a premium, but I'm paying as I go. And so what happens on Advantage plans is the companies are going to set a daily copay. Now, let me explain this daily copay. And again, this is going to vary. Right now, the average daily copay in the hospital is around $350. That's the average. So some a little lower, some a little higher, but $350. And then they always set a limit as to how many days you have to pay. And so normally it is days 1 to day 6. Okay, so right now the average stay is about 6 days. So what does that mean? If I'm on that Advantage plan and I have a plan that maxes out at 6 days, that 6 times that $350 is going to be what? $2,100. that 6-day hospital stay cost me. Over here, it didn't cost me anything because I've already met my deductible. Here, I'm going to pay the $2,100 out of pocket. Now notice, that $2,100 is going towards my max out of pocket. So that number is being credited to that. So if I ever hit $5,000, I'm done for the year. And so I paid that $2,100, and then day 7 thereafter, there's no expense whatsoever. Now, if that plan stops at 5, that'd be $1,750. If it stops at 7, it's going to be what? $2,450. So they're going to vary anywhere from about 5 to 7 days. But also I want you to note that that daily copay covers every service that you get in the hospital that day. You could just have average care, $350 a day. You could be in intensive care. It's still $350 a day. There could be 4 doctors that see you or 10 doctors that see you. It doesn't matter. It's covered by that $350 a day. You could have a surgery or not. Doesn't matter. Everything that happens while you're in that inpatient hospital stay for that day is covered by that daily copay. All right? And so you see we're paying as we go. All right, let's take then the third item that's very expensive, and that is going to be cancer. Now listen, everyone's cancer treatment is going to look a little differently. I understand that. It could be colon cancer, it could be breast cancer, it could be skin cancer. There's a variety of things that are going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a letter to you because I think this is a great illustration as to somebody that really had a very serious issue with cancer. So let me read that to you. This is a client of mine that wrote to me, unsolicited. He just wrote to me and wanted to explain to me what happened to him on his Medicare plan with his cancer. Here's what he says. He said, Marvin, I was as healthy as a horse in September of 2021 when some stomach issues prompted me to get some lab work. The lab called me and said my liver enzymes were way off and that I needed to go to the emergency room immediately. I soon learned that I had very early stages of pancreatic cancer. An aborted surgery because of pancreatitis left me at KU Med Center for most of the month of October. I left the hospital with a walker, 3 drain tubes, a feeding line. Absolutely lucky I was alive, although still with the cancer. Following six months of chemotherapy, I elected for a second opinion and had the cancer removed in late June by a surgeon at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. I don't know how many ER visits, hospital stays, CT scans, and MRIs I had during this period of time. He goes on to talk about his coverage. But my point of reading this is what happens when people have cancer. There's multiple things that can occur. And so again, let's compare supplemental to Advantage. So if I am going through what he had to go through, CT scans, MRIs, ER visits, hospital stays, he had a surgery at Mayo, all those kind of things, what happened? Well, if he's already met his B deductible, what will that cancer cost him? Absolutely zero. Okay? Why? Because on that G plan, everything's covered except the B deductible. So he's done. Just like I said, the hospital stay. If there's any expenses, it's going to be covered. All those gaps are covered by that G plan. So if we have cancer and we're going to be on an Advantage plan, what's going to happen? Well, let's go through the letter just a little bit here. So first off, he said that he had to get some lab work. Some lab work is going to be maybe zero copay, maybe upwards to $25. So very, very reasonable lab work depending upon where you get that. And then he said that he had to go to the emergency room. Most emergency room copays are going to be about $90, and they will waive that if you get admitted to the hospital. And then he said that he had to have an aborted surgery, so obviously he was in the hospital. I would assume it was pancreatitis. It must have been an inpatient stay. So again, he may have been in the hospital here, could possibly be paying $350 a day for a couple days if he was on the Advantage plan. Again, we don't know. Let's just say it was 3 days. So that cost him, $1,050 out of pocket. Now remember, it's all going to the $5,000. We're never going to exceed that amount. All right. And then he said he says, I don't know how many CT scans or MRIs I had. Those normally run about $200 per test. Sometimes like a PET scan could be a little bit more, but let's say a person has 4 of those. So they're going to spend about $800 in those tests as well. All right. And so that covers that. And then he says he ended up going to Mayo Clinic. And by the way, Mayo Clinic Most Mayo clinics do not take Advantage plans. They do take a few, but again, I don't know if he could have gone there or not. But again, he would have had to go to Mayo Clinic, so there would have been expense towards that. And so my whole point is sharing as we look at the two comparison, because I paid that premium of $1,500, that cancer is going to be covered at 100%. Over here, I paid no premium, but again, I'm just paying as I go, of course, never more than the $5,000. All right, so that's what cancer is going to look like as we compare the two. Now let's talk about the fourth biggest expense. And this could be surgery, this could be an outpatient surgery, or it could be an inpatient surgery. And again, let's just say I have to have cataract surgery, that's going to be done on an outpatient basis. What would happen here, if I've met my deductible, that surgery for my cataract, again, is going to be zero. Now keep in mind, as I mentioned, cataract surgery, Medicare only covers basic lenses. So if you decide to get the fancier lenses and you upgrade those, I did that personally, then it's going to cost you out of pocket, whether you're in either one of these systems, because original Medicare and the Medicare Advantage will only cover the basic lenses. They'll also pay for a new set of glasses after that surgery. So if it's on an outpatient basis, cataract surgery, it's going to be zero. Over here, what the Advantage plan will do is they have a very reasonable copay for an outpatient surgery. And again, that's going to range anywhere from about $250 to maybe $400. All right? So again, we're at an ambulatory surgical center. Zero here, over here, very reasonable. And what that copay is going to cover for you will be the surgeon that does the operation. It'll cover the anesthesiologist that is administering anesthesia. It'll also cover the nursing services there as well as the facility fee. They tell me right now that about the average outpatient cost is about $12,000 to $15,000. If you're on that Advantage plan, you're not going to pay that. You're just going to pay a very reasonable copay, and again, applied towards your max out of pocket. Okay, so that would be some sort of an outpatient situation. Let's say we have a knee replacement. Again, that's going to be outpatient. Again, it's covered 100% here by your Medicare A and B and your G plan. Over here, the same thing would apply. Okay, but here's where it's a little bit different. If I have a knee surgery, what's going to happen is you're going to have some therapy. Now, if you go home, most Advantage plans, home health care therapy is going to be zero for you, which is awesome. Over here, of course, you've met your B deductible, it's going to be zero. But what happens typically, that home health care therapy lasts for about 3 weeks or so, and then after that, most people still need some more care, more rehab, usually for maybe 4 to 6 weeks or so, and they go about 3 times every week. And that normally carries a copay on average of about $40 per session, all right? So again, if I'm going to do that for, let's say, 4 weeks, and I'm going to go 3 times a week, that's going to be, what, $480 that I have to pay for my rehab. And again, it's applied to my max out of pocket. Over here, again, it's going to be zero. So depending upon what your surgery is going to look like will determine what these actual costs are going to look like. Because if I'm going to have a surgery inpatient, then what's going to happen? I'm just going to be covered by that daily copay up here. And then home health care, of course, would still be zero. Any kind of outpatient rehab will be per visit to the physical therapist. I'll have to pay a copay. All right? And so that's going to be surgery. And again, whatever visits led up to that, and just so you know, most primary care doctor visits on Advantage plans are going to be zero. You can see your primary care doc, but when you see a specialist, you normally pay anywhere from about $25 to $50 copay when you see a specialist. So here, it could have been an ophthalmologist, it could have been an orthopedic doctor, or whatever, whoever you see that's going to be part of that surgery. You would certainly see the surgeon a few times before having that surgery, and you would just simply pay a very reasonable copay out of pocket each time you saw the doctor. Okay, and so that's going to be a surgery. And then we'll talk about the fifth expense, medications. Now, medication expenses are going to be very controlled by Medicare. When you go on Medicare, you're going to be offered the opportunity to be able to get a Medicare Part D plan, they're called. Now, what I want you to see from this, though, if I get a Part D plan, it will not be part of my supplemental plan. This supplemental plan covers me for inpatient and outpatient, and it does cover me for medications that are professionally administered. A and B will cover meds and the supplemental plan will cover meds as long as they're professionally administered. That means you have gone to the hospital. A and B in your sup covers those meds. You have an outpatient surgery or an outpatient injection or an infusion. Again, it's going to be covered by A and B in your supplemental plan. So when I talk about medications here specifically, I'm talking about those that you self-administer. This would be your cholesterol medication, high blood pressure. Maybe you're an insulin-dependent diabetic. The meds that you self-administer, these are medicine you pick up at the pharmacy and you're taking them at home. So when we have a supplemental plan, we're going to have a separate drug plan. Okay, so we add a drug plan to this coverage. And so with that, we're going to have a premium. And this varies. There's some plans right now that are as low as $7 a month, and there's some as high as $70 a month. They tell us right now that the average separate drug plan right now is right at $30 a month. Okay, $30 a month. So that's the way it is when you have a supplemental plan. That's average. Could be lower, could be higher. When it comes to Advantage, they almost always include a drug plan at zero premium for you. Now, there'll be copays and such, but they embed that as part of the package. All right, so here I pay a premium for that monthly. Average is $30. Here, zero. Now, once we've either paid the premium or as a zero premium, now what's going to happen with medications is we're going to go through what are called stages. And this is probably one of the most confusing parts of Medicare, because we can actually be on one medication that changes its copay 4 times in the same year. Same medication, same dosage, same frequency, but the copay, my out-of-pocket responsibility, could change 4 times. And here's why. Because with Medicare, all Medicare plans, whether it's standalone drug plan or embedded, we have to go through the 4 stages. So those stages are, first one is the deductible stage. And the deductible is set by Medicare every year. This year, that deductible is $505. Okay, so for 2023, that deductible is $505. Now, what it doesn't mean is that you have to necessarily show up and write a check for $505. It means that your prescriptions are going to have a copay, and that copay is applied to your deductible. And so if you're the average person and you're taking, let's say, 4 medications and they're all generics, you may have, let's say, 4 meds that cost $3 a piece. That's $12 a month for your meds. And so if it's $12 a month times 12, that's $144 a year for copays. You won't even reach your deductible. And that means that you will stay in that deductible stage, which is stage 1, all year long. And frankly, that's what happens to probably 60 to 70% of all people on Medicare. They never reach their deductible, which is great, okay? But let's say that we're on an expensive medication. Let's say we're on one expensive medication, that's all we take, and it happens to be Eliquis. Eliquis is heart medication, it's a patented blood thinner. A lot of people have AFib and other heart issues will take Eliquis. Eliquis retails for about $500 to $600 a month. Most people take 2 tablets, 5 milligrams a day. They have 60 pills in that bottle, and that bottle retails for $500 to $600 a month. I can assure you, if you're on Eliquis, you're going to reach your deductible the very first fill that you have. All right, and so once we've met our deductible, then that takes us to stage number 2. And here in stage number 2, we call this the copay stage. And copays will be based upon the tier of your medication. Every medication that's covered by a Medicare plan will be given a tier number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The lower the tier, the lower the copay. You could be on a tier 1 medication, and all those under your plan may be a 0 copay. Tier 2s may be $5. Tier 3 may be $25 to $50. Tier 4, and up they go. But you see the point. So depending upon the tier by medication, in this stage, because remember, this was stage 1, this is stage 2, all I'm doing is paying copays, right? But what's happening in this stage here, as I get my prescriptions filled, I pay a small copay, but Medicare is actually tracking the retail cost of my medications. So as they track the retail cost every month, that retail cost is climbing. And let's go back to my illustration of Eliquis, $500 a month. My first month cost me $500, but I'm in stage 2. Second month cost me $45. Out of pocket because I'm in this stage and my copays are very low and they're very reasonable. But even though I pay $45, Medicare is tracking the $500 retail cost. And as that retail cost just continues to climb as I get my medications, they're tracking it to a certain number called the threshold. Now the threshold for this year is $4,630. So if my retail threshold, if I ever reach it, that $4,630, if I reach that, then I will be done in stage 2, and that will put me into stage 3, which is called the donut hole. Donut hole. All right? Now, they tell us that less than 10% of all people ever reach the retail threshold. I had a gentleman the other day that I worked with that was taking a medication for rheumatoid arthritis. It costs $7,300 a month. $7,300 a month medication. How long does it take him to reach $4,630 threshold? About what? 3 weeks, less than one full fill. He has already reached that threshold, and he's immediately into the donut hole. Now, what happens in the donut hole is anyone in the donut hole pays a 25% co-insurance for their medication. So if I'm in the donut hole and I'm taking a $100 medication, it costs me $25. The plan pays the difference, right? If I'm in the donut hole and I'm taking a $500 medication, what's it cost me? 25% of $500 is $125. And this is why the donut hole can be painful. Now, in the old days, it used to be worse because it meant you had no coverage. You had the donut hole. You had zero help. And they realized that that was a problem for people, so they started reducing it down. Now, in the donut hole, the most you'll pay is 25% of the retail cost. And then if we ever reach another number, which is called the true out-of-pocket, we get into what's called catastrophic. And here you simply pay 5% of the retail cost of medications. And just so you know, in 2024, that catastrophic will go to zero, which is wonderful. But for now, you pay 5%. And my whole point in sharing this with you is we have these different stages. There are 4 of them. And so Medicare is tracking the retail cost of our medications as we pick those up. We're really paying retail other than maybe the deductible, but other than that, Medicare tracks it. And so we can have one medication that can change prices 4 different times. Let me go back with Eliquis. If I get a fill of Eliquis, my first fill cost me $505. My second fill cost me $45. And my third fill, fourth fill, all the way up to 8 months fill, is going to cost me $45. But I'll finally hit the threshold with that medication after about 9 months, and then I go the donut hole, and then my copay jumps up to $125. And if I ever get out of the donut hole, then I don't have to pay, what, $25 for that Eliquis, 5%. And so the same medication and those copays are fluctuating throughout the year. And here's why I'm teaching you this. When you have a drug plan, whether that's separate or it's embedded, you also have the tiers. So you can never get away from the donut hole, whether it's an included plan, embedded, or it's a separate plan. You will go through those 4 stages. The difference would be when it comes to Advantage plan, I don't have to pay typically a premium for that drug plan. Here I had to pay a premium, so again, that's going to be additional cost. Here it's zero, but I will still have the deductible. I still could have a tiering, still can hit the donut hole, and of course go to catastrophic. So again, out-of-pocket costs are going to vary really very little here. The difference would be the premium I have to pay for to be on that particular plan. Now, one of the disadvantages in this system would be the insurance company picks the plan for you. And so that's why you have to make sure your medications are really well covered on that Advantage plan, because that Advantage company picked it for you. They included a plan. Here, you get to pick and choose your plan, and you can change them annually if you need to. If you're going to take more meds or less meds next year, you can change your plan. All right? But medications are a huge expense, and this is why it matters. Because some of you don't take any meds, and sometimes people are tempted to not get a prescription drug plan. And listen, I would encourage you, don't give in to that temptation. I don't care if you don't take a medication now. That could change quickly. I read the letter. The guy said he was healthy as a horse in September, and then within a couple months, now he's having problems. He has cancer, and certainly on some very expensive medications. I have people right now that are on medications, they're chemotherapy, self-administered chemotherapy pills, $7,000 a month. Okay? And if you have a Medicare plan, either here or there, you'll pay a fraction of the cost. If you don't have a drug plan, you're going to pay full cost and do everything you possibly can to get that medication. All right? Hey, if you want to learn more about Medicare, I want to invite you to join our MedicareSchool.com Facebook group. Every Monday, Central Time, 5 o'clock, we'll take a very important topic and get into the details of that. So it's something that you would enjoy doing. We hope that you'll join us. I had a client the other day that we were helping with medications. He took a medication that was literally $16,000 a month. And he said, Marvin, that medication keeps me alive. $16,000. How long does it take him to get the donut hole? 1 week. In fact, interesting thing about that medication is very first fill cost him $3,000 and he's instantly into catastrophic. And that $16,000 a month medication cost him 5%. In 2024, it cost him zero. But right now, it cost him $800 for a $16,000 medication. Why? Because he had a little $11.20 drug plan. And that's why you get a drug plan. Because you will spend more money on medications than anything else today in healthcare. It just exceeded recently, even more than inpatient. Our medications are very, very costly. So that's why you get a drug plan. So here, it's embedded, still have 4 stages here. It's separate, you pay a premium, and we have the 4 stage. And then lastly, let's talk about dental. We all know how important it is to make sure that our teeth are taken well care of. They have a lot of bearing upon other health issues. And so most people are concerned about the expense of dental. Now, let me explain how this works. If you have a supplemental plan, that supplemental plan may include some kind of a dental discount plan. There's some of the companies that do that. So I'm not going to talk about dental discount plans. I'm not mocking them. I'm not saying they're not good, but I'm going to talk about a real plan. Okay, so here's what happens. When you get a supplemental plan, you could have the option to also get a dental plan, but it is separate. It's a separate policy. It's a separate premium, maybe even a totally different company. All right, and there's a variety of companies that write them. But here's what I want you to see when it comes to dental plans. Right now, the average probably around the country is going to be about a $45 a month premium. And please, there could be some little or some a little higher. I'm just saying to you, that's about the average right now. Now, when it comes to a different, separate dental plan, what's going to happen is going to have 3 types of coverage. It's going to have your preventive coverage, it's going to have basic services, and it's going to have major services. All right? And so it's going to include all of those. Now, what's going to happen is this. You're going to have to pay a monthly premium for that. Most of the plans are immediately going to give you preventive service, 2 cleanings a year, a set of x-rays. Day 1, they do that. Now, when it comes to basic services, these are your extractions and fillings and very low-cost type items. Now, some plans will not cover you for those for about 6 months. Others may cover you immediately at a certain percentage. Usually, it's about 80-20 on basic services. And again, some plans cover immediate. Others are going to make you wait a little while. But that's your cheap stuff. Now, the major stuff, most companies aren't going to cover those for about a year. All right, so you got to be on the plan for a year before they're going to cover your major. So this is your periodontal work, your root canal and your crowns, your implants, if they cover those. And so after 1 year, then they will begin to cover it. And it just makes sense, folks. You're not going to give a dental insurance company $45 and expect them to help you with the crown of $1,500. They're just not going to do that, all right? They will cover it, but it's going to take about a year. So immediate benefit, usually 6-month wait period or less. Here, about 12 months worth of a wait period. And then the next biggest issue when it comes to dental plans is what will be the annual max out of pocket. I'm personally on a plan that allows us, each of my family members, we have $2,500 each plus cleanings. It's a very good plan. Cost me just a little bit less than $50 a month to have that plan per person. Okay, that's a dental plan. And again, you don't have to have one, but if you want one, you can add those at any time because again, Medicare is not going to cover your dental. Now, Medicare will cover something serious. If we have jaw cancer and we have to have some reconstruction, Medicare would cover that. But your extractions, fillings, cleanings, those kind of things, Medicare is not going to cover that. You're going to have a separate dental plan, all right? A separate premium. Now, when it comes to Advantage, almost all of them are going to include a dental benefit. I don't call it a dental plan because most of them are going to give you about $1,000. All right. Now, if you're on Medicaid, low income, low assets, that's probably going to be $3,000 or $4,000. All right, because Medicaid. But for the average person, you're going to get maybe $1,000 to probably $1,500. That's going to be included in that dental plan, and it's a legitimate benefit. What you do have to make sure of, though, is some of the plans make you go to one of their network dentists, and if your dentist isn't in the network, you're going to have to change dentists to be able to take advantage of that benefit. But again, this normally includes some preventive and other comprehensive services and basic up to that particular limit. If your dentist doesn't take the plan, you can pay out of pocket, keep the receipt, and then turn it into the Advantage company, and then they will reimburse you for those expenses up to that annual limit. All right, so these are the 6 expenses that you're going to have to be incurring when you go on Medicare, and you're going to have to decide how you want to prepare for them. Those of you that decide you want a supplemental plan, what are you doing? You're paying a premium to get really rid of all the risk here that exists on the inpatient, outpatient. You get a G plan, that's all you have to pay out of pocket. But again, you're going to have to pay a premium for that. Those of you that don't want to pay a premium, or you're willing to risk it as though you don't think you'll ever have a health problem, you may decide to go with the Advantage plan. And it's fine to do that, but instead you're going to pay as you go. But again, as you can see, if you have any kind of a major illness, guarantee you'll spend less on your supplemental plan, premium plus that small deductible, than that max out of pocket that you'll be confronted with as you have to pay as you go for these different services. Either way, we want to make sure that we get a medication plan, whether we take some or not. I'll have people say, well, Marvin, I can get my meds cheaper, GoodRx coupon. That's true, and I'm happy that you can do that. But I guarantee you get an Eliquis, that coupon's about $35 off. Okay, so I like GoodRx. I like some of these things so that we have alternatives to get our drugs at a lower cost. But if you get on real expensive medications, those kind of discount plans are not going to help you. That Medicare plan, being on one, you would pay just a fraction of the cost of those drugs. And then you'll have to decide if you want a dental plan or not, either separate or it can be embedded on the Advantage plan. Thanks so much.